Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and continuing to tune in. Um, I am actually, opening up my screen because it timed out. There we go. Um, so, yeah, thank you to everybody who keeps tuning in to Actualizing Your Authentic Self. And I'm Vita King Blanchard. I am really excited to continue hosting this series. It's just near and dear to my heart to show up and support people in finding different tools and the tools that hopefully will work with you, work for you, with you. Tonight I have Bary with me. Bary, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I spent 40 years as a Christian minister, ordained. Then I found Centers for Spiritual Living and became a licensed spiritual practitioner. Um, I teach part-time at local university here. I've been doing that for 35 years in the psychology department. Um, and there's a long story behind it, but I discovered, let me just go into a little bit. Um, I spent, um, from the time I was a little boy, I wanted to be an athlete and I loved baseball. But from the time I started trying to play baseball, I was told over and over and over again, you're no good at this. Um, and so I just kind of gave up on being an athlete until I was in my late 60s. I was scrolling on Facebook, not one of my better habits, and came across an ad for a sprint triathlon. And I didn't know there was such a thing.
Mhm.
Um, and all I knew about was the Hawaii Ironman. And I saw those folks as kind of the elite of the elite athletes. But I checked it out, and it was a mile and a half open water swim, 12-mile bike ride, and a 5K run. And I thought, well, I know how to swim, and I've got a bike, and I've got sneakers. I can do this. Um, and so a couple of things happened. One is when I was doing the practice in the first open water practice, um, I had a major panic attack. I'd never had one in my life. Uh, but I realized that I was in over my head psychologically because here I was my whole life being told I'm not an athlete. And now I'm trying to be one of the elite. I mean, I had never even met anybody that did a triathlon. Um, and I was literally in over my head psychologically, and that triggered the panic attack. The funny thing was, we were required by the insurance to wear a wetsuit for liability insurance, which is like a giant floaty. And I'm in salt water,
So you're super
and
safe.
had, had I not been so addled, I the tide had gone out, and I could have literally stood up.
Mm.
Um, but the woman that was running the clinic got in my face and screamed at me, and I won't use all of the words that she used, but basically said, "You know how to swim. You're a triathlete. Now swim." Um, and uh, Short story is, I did that. I completed it, and the next year I was invited by the U.S. Triathlon Association to try out to represent the United States in the World Championships that year. Um, and And in the meantime, I got involved with Spartan events. I don't know if you're familiar with those, really challenging physical things. And so now here I am in my early 70s, realizing that I had this in me for my whole life, but I never had anybody that saw it in me.
Mm.
Um, I remember going to the gym where my wife was going, and they were doing we call it a muddy sneakers run, 5K with obstacles and mud and stuff. And um, and this was back, oh, probably 10 or 11 years ago now. Um, Spartan had a half-hour program on with people competing in Spartan events head to head. And I knew that the trainer, the woman that owned the gym, had done some Spartan events. And so after class one night, I said, Heather, do you think I could ever do a Spartan?
Mm.
And she didn't realize that was a hypothetical question. Her face lit up and she said, not only can you, you're going to, and here's the plan. In April, you're going to do the Beast, and in August, you're going to do the Super, and you're going to celebrate your 70th birthday at Fenway Park, completing the trifecta.
Yes.
Um, and my stomach just turned into knots in that moment. Um, but the takeaway from all of this is that we have a lot more in us than we realize. And it's a wonderful gift when we find people in our lives or the people in our lives find us, or the universe puts us together with people who see our potential and and who can develop a plan to help us reach that potential. Um, and so I've called that our inner magnificence.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm pretty passionate about helping people connect to their inner magnificence. So that's what I'm about.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story too. That's beautiful. Yeah. And thank you to Philip, who is in the chat. Philip from Skydancer Media continues to show up and support these lives, and I just appreciate it. I appreciate him so much. Um, so let's breathe into the space. Let's just do a centering breath. Let's invite you to just settle into the position that feels comfortable for you right now. And bring your attention to following your breath as it moves in and out. Simply following its natural rhythm. Allow yourself to notice anything in your system that offers itself for you, asking for a little extra attention. And just notice it. Send it some love. And then return your attention to your breath. Take one last breath. And as you're ready, move a little and then open. So, Barry and I are going to be chatting about some questions that we've agreed to bring to the table. Please feel free to share questions or comments in the chat now, or if you're watching a replay, then too. And our first question today is, how can we love ourselves where and as we are?
And I'll respond to that the way I did when I first saw it, which is kind of a smart alecky answer. Where else can we do it? How else can we do it? We have to start where we are. And when I'm working with folks, I acknowledge that we all have our past, um, and parts of that have been helpful, and parts of that might have been traumatic or toxic. And we find ourselves in this present moment, and a lot of us think about our future. So this is our past, this is our present, what's our future? But I invite people, instead of talking about the future, to talk about our potential and to be curious about our potential, um, and um, and to know that there is way more to us than is that is conscious.
Mm,
Um, and so whether we do practices like the opening practice that you just did, or whether we find people around us who invite us into our potential, who see something in us that we might not see, and they support us, and they believe in us, and they hold that truth about us. I know when I often tell clients a positive trait that I see in them, and they don't see it. And I say, well, I'm going to continue to see it until you do.
mm,
Um, so, yeah, that's We can only start where we are, um, but we can start where we are.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what a lot of us do, myself included, is I'm going to start when.
Sure.
Um, and there is only now.
Yeah. I like to think of it as, right, like every moment is the starting place to where you want to go.
Hmm.
And and um and what where we are, it like kind of defines what we can envision in terms of where we're moving toward. Like we have, like, from where I am now, I can imagine all kinds of beautiful things that feel radiant and incredible. And so I move toward them, as I'm loving myself along the way. And and then as I move, and this just continues happening. So I guess now I have an expectation that it's going to keep going. As I move, then that vision shifts a little or changes.
Hmm.
And so I think about it like, for anything that we can all imagine, like that already exists inside of you. That already is part of you. It's like part of your beauty that you can imagine this incredible life, this incredible beauty.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, several years ago, I did a TEDx talk um, on your inner magnificence, and the visual that I use is a geode, because on the outside, a geode looks just like an ordinary rock. Um, but if oh, actually, I have it right here. Let me I'm going to switch my camera here. Um, so we'll see how this works.
Mm-hmm.
So this looks like a rock, but for somebody that knows rocks and cut into it, this is what's on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd never know that. But if you get even more curious and cut into it again, it's this,
Mm-hmm.
the butterfly,
Yeah.
which is the symbol of new life and potential and beauty. And so that's kind of how I envision us. Um, and as I said, uh, some of us, you're in a wonderful place where you know that that any thought or any vision you have is a possibility. Um, but I see so many people that have been either beaten down or beaten up by life that they don't see anything possible except where they are.
Sure.
Um, and that's where my mission comes in. That's what you're about too, is helping people to know the truth that that is the true appearance, but it's an appearance, it's not the truth. And there is something really magical and beautiful inside.
Yeah.
Um, if we can find the tools and the support and are willing to open ourselves to the possibility that it even might be true.
Yeah. And and I think, like, to me this question feels important about how we can love ourselves where we are, because I find that unconditional love of where where I am in the moment is what supports me in moving forward, right? Because otherwise, I know that I'll end up spending energy on other things, like on it, like lack of self-worth takes a lot of energy.
Um, it, it it does. And part of that for me is learning to forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and I've come to the awareness um, that I used to beat myself up for all the mistakes I made.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've come to realize that that there are no mistakes. There are only opportunities to learn. Um, and if we learn from those experiences, then they're gifts.
Yeah.
Um, and to be able to look for the gift instead of continuing to beat ourselves up for the mistakes and the regrets that we might have.
Yeah. I find also like for me taking ownership. I mean the four agreements really supported my self-love journey a lot.
Hmm.
Um
Sure.
because taking ownership of things that I've done that felt like mistakes um
Yeah.
before they became gifts. um like and and also recognizing that I was always doing my best, which is where the four agreements come in, right?
Right.
Is that is such a supportive tool for me in in loving myself that yeah, okay. I hope that I intend to next time do it a little differently or maybe a
Mhm.
lot differently depending on the circumstance. But um and and I know that that time I showed up the best with everything I had, and I didn't have more inner resources. I didn't have more patience. I didn't have more clarity of communication. Uh,
Mhm.
whatever it was that and that has always yeah been the gift that I found is oh well that's a thing I can practice. So I think of those as like inroads to this journey of actualizing your authentic self of yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the concepts that Jack Canfield talks about is 100% responsible.
Mm-hmm.
That I am 100% responsible for my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of us get stuck in feeling like victims.
Sure.
Um, and I know that we can get in some really thin ice going in some of these areas.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, um, when I when I claim when I claim my power, um, when I acknowledge that I am responsible for my experience, um, then then I have power. Um, a lot of us we look at situations, and sometimes we'll get upset or frustrated and say, "You make me so angry. This makes me so angry." And the reality is that I am making myself angry because of the meaning that I'm attaching to what happened or the actions of this other person. Um,
Yeah, creating a lot of additional context and
yeah, um, but it isn't the circumstances that are creating my experience. It's the values that I put, the interpretation, the opinions, the beliefs about the circumstances that create our experience. And the good thing about that is, so things happen and we have feelings about it and they happen that fast. But what we don't realize is that they happen and they get processed through our database here.
mm-hmm.
And the feelings have actually come from the database, which is unconscious. Um,
Yeah,
so,
processed information.
yeah. Um, and
Yeah.
just a fun fact for the day, this computer right here is processing about 40 million bits of data right now.
That is a fun fact.
Well, no, that's the fun fact is, I mean, excuse me, 11 million bits, 11 million bits. But of those 11 million, we are only conscious of 40.
Hmm.
And I can switch and bring other stuff into consciousness that's there. and I
Yeah.
can push stuff um, out of consciousness, bring it into consciousness, or take stuff in consciousness and put it out. But there's just that tiny, tiny sliver of what's happening in this computer here that is conscious.
That's
Um,
that gives me a whole new perspective on ADHD and what's happening there. Like,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
they just have there's like less of a filter. There's less of a so they're seeing anyone with ADHD is seeing more options, more
Right.
availability.
Right. But the good news is I can't change the circumstances necessarily, or I can't change the events, and I can't directly change my feelings, but I can go back and be curious about, so what's the belief I have that created the feelings?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And what's the thought that I had that's creating those feelings? And is there a better thought that would create different feelings?
Yes. I think this is leading us into our second question, which is how will loving ourselves as we are support us in developing a life we love?
Yeah. So one is if I love myself enough to take responsibility, um, now I'm not a victim of life. I'm not a victim of the world around me. I'm not a victim of circumstances. Um, I am I have the power to create the life that I want. And it isn't other people or other events that's getting in the way. They might appear to be, but ultimately I have that power.
Hmm.
Um, and as I said before, um, some of us don't know that. Um, we're caught in the victim mentality because that's an easy place to go. Um, but I want people to know that we do have that power, and that we are only victims to the extent that that's how we see ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, and that takes processing,
It
right?
does. It does.
When we're going through something that's traumatic or like oppressive, right? If we're feeling oppressed by our surrounding context, if we're experiencing trauma on a daily basis, it can be a really a challenging transition.
It is. And again, that goes back to,
Being on thin
I
ice.
think, the importance of having um, people around us that can support us and that can see us for who we really are.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's so much more helpful than people who are just sympathetic.
Right.
It's nice to have people who will affirm our feelings,
Hmm.
but that doesn't help us get anywhere
Well,
necessarily.
I mean, it helps with part of the process, right?
Right.
Like we were talking about before we went live. It supports feeling the feeling before moving forward, so that we have that really strong foundation to move forward from.
And I gave a talk this past Sunday and acknowledged that our feelings are the universe's gift to help us know that we're alive.
Hmm, that's a lovely way to put that. Yeah.
And I jokingly said, even when we're depressed, we know we're alive because we want to kill ourselves. But but the but the feelings are what make us know that we're alive, and the extent to which the feelings are unpleasant is the universe's way of inviting us to a deeper truth.
Sure.
Because as I change my opinion, as I change my beliefs, I'll say it differently. Um, the more the closer my thoughts are to truth with a capital T, the more joy I have in my life, the more love I have in my life, the more kindness the more generous I become,
Mhm.
and the more willing we are. to give of ourselves.
And the more the world reflects it back to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I 100% believe that, right? That I mean, it's been it was my belief before I saw it inside of my experience, and I also believe it was, or I understand it to have always been my experience, even before I believed it. Because retrospectively, it makes sense. When I felt injured and victimized, and there were people that I spent a lot of time with that I wasn't safe with, and when I started to recognize that, and but when I was victimized, when I felt victimized, I got more of it, and I showed up in the world that way, very reactive.
Hmm.
And now that I recognize, or my understanding of the world is that we all ripple out into it. Every piece of us ripples out and touches everything, and then it all touches each other. It's all just one thing working, one organism together. And and I've experienced that. Like, now I show up as me, and I just get so much love back.
Hmm.
And it supports me in choosing safe context, safe people, safe places.
And I think that's an important thing to to be conscious of in the current climate of our culture right now,
Mhm.
because it's easy there. We know that there's a lot of anger
Mhm.
in the air, and it's easy to get caught up in that kind of energy. Um, I experience it mostly with driving.
Sure.
Um,
I really love seeing the protests, and seeing people dressing up in like costumes and dancing, because what a joyful way to show up and illustrate the point that no, we're not doing anything violent. We're just here to say that we disagree, strongly disagree.
mhm.
And, but yeah.
But that's my point is we have to make a conscious choice
Mhm.
to show up as our best self
Yes.
rather than showing up as our reactive self.
Yes. Uh, yeah, showing up as our whole self, right?
And as our proactive self.
Yeah. And for me, that means like self-care. I for me, that means making sure that I have enough water, that I've had enough food, that I've had enough rest, that I've worked with whatever practices I'm working with. Right now that means daily meditation and some kind of contemplation for me.
Mhm.
But it shifts. And as long as I have those practices and those basic needs met, then I get to show up with my whole present self. And I find, talking to clients and students, when there is an ongoing state of agitation, that something has been forgotten. Like, when was the last day you had a day off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Um, Taking care of ourselves. Um, Years ago, Gary Zukav wrote a book called The Seat of the Soul.
Mm.
And I've just recently become reacquainted with that, um, because, and this is my observation, it feels like as a culture we've lost touch with our soul.
Mm.
And he talks about the difference between our soul and our personality.
Mm.
Um, and and what I just heard from you is as long as as your soul is nourished,
Yeah.
then you can show up as your best self.
Well, to go back to four agreements, right? I believe that I'm always my best self. I that um, which maybe is just a semantic thing, but that right, I am able to show up with more of myself when all of my resources are full.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another way to put that is that you show up with more love and more kindness and more joy and more generosity,
Yeah.
more compassion.
Right. I have more to give.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, well, and then let's move into our third question,
Okay.
which is what does it mean to own our inner magnificence?
Well, I think part of that is what I alluded to earlier, and that is taking 100% responsibility for my experience.
Mm,
Um, I'm not going to take responsibility for what happened to me or what other people might have done to me or circumstances, but how I experience that and what I do with that, I'm responsible for.
right.
Um, so anything that helps us step out of feeling like a victim,
Hmm.
what we alluded to earlier about things happen for us, not to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and there's a saying, um, God's here and I want to see it.
Sure.
Um, because a lot of times I don't see that, but that doesn't mean it's not there. It just means I'm not seeing it.
Hmm.
And so my invitation is to look for it. The conversation, uh, you've probably seen the clip with Fred Rogers when he was a little boy and he was seeing on television, I think it might have been the civil rights uh, march and demonstrations, and his saying to his mother, where is God?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his mother said, look for the helpers, look for the helpers.
Yeah.
Um,
Got like
um,
yummy goosebumps because yeah.
and and so when we show up as a helper,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like, which is different from being a controller.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Uh, but when we show up as a helper, um, then we have owned our magnificence.
Hmm. I love that. To own the ways that we can best contribute, that we can like best be a part of everything. Yeah.
Um, and I'm thinking now about um, people who have been in toxic relationships, in toxic circumstances, in toxic relationships, people who have been abused physically, verbally, emotionally, sexually. Um, to be curious about, okay, so where is God in this?
Hmm.
Um, because I am a firm believer uh, that God is everywhere. Um, what's this thing? There's not a spot where God is not.
Mm.
Um, so just to be curious about where the good is
Yeah.
in these traumatic circumstances.
What neighbor came to check on you? What like what person at a school like made sure that a child
Yeah.
what what opportunities do you have in your context to find a better and a safer place? Yeah.
And to look for and acknowledge the presence of good in the midst of the horrible stuff.
It can take a road to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and it doesn't happen overnight, but to be curious and open to that
Mhm.
is the path to our inner magnificence.
Yeah. To believe that the possibility of good exists even in the midst of things that feel stressful or terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I find like for me that it's always been the thing that always brings me back and it was like my first point of contact when I was a teenager and very depressed and full of angst and neurodivergence that was undiagnosed and feeling just all over the place. And after several deaths and whatever, trees, sitting with a tree and noticing the bark and the different striations and the different colors, because bark is not really brown, it's usually purple and green, like kind of merging in together,
Yeah.
and noticing the glistening of the leaves, or in the winter the way that the ice hung off the trees. All of that was is like my inroad that I go to when I feel at my roughest point, is
Hmm.
um, is I know that I can go and just touch a tree, and or look at a tree and be with the tree. And now I have a lot of other tools, but at the places where, or after my son died, when I was in very deep grief, just sitting and looking at trees and being really present with them, and like, help me see God again, help me see the beauty of life.
There
And
is something very healing about nature.
mhm. Well, and us as a part of nature, right?
Right.
Because it's all just one thing. So like, and we're just part of this ecosystem. And the more that we own that, the better off we all are.
Sure.
Yeah.
But as you say, um, the Japanese call it nature bathing. Go,
Mhm.
go for a walk in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there is something soothing and something very healing, something calming.
Well, the trees will act, the forest actually will release pheromones for us to benefit us, and to support us in healing whatever we physiologically need to at the moment. And that stability supports our mental stability and our spiritual stability. So absolutely, like, yeah, which before I knew that fun stuff,
Yeah.
what I knew was that I could, even in a city, I could go and find a tree, I,
Yep.
and just be with it, and it
Yep.
would restore me and remind me how much good there was. And and that helped me look inward to recognize what was good in me, because I had
Hmm.
a lot of self-loathing when I was young. That's and 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 looking at the beauty outside of me and noticing the people who saw beauty in me.
Hmm.
The combination of those two things was what helped me in starting to see it in myself.
Sure.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end. Is there anything else you want to say on that last question?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. And then you're gonna share a practice with us.
Yes. Yes. Um, so, so let's just settle in. Um, Allow your hands to rest softly in your lap. Let your eyes gently close. Just take a slow breath in and exhale fully. Let your body become heavy, but know that it's supported. Feel the chair, the couch, whatever, feeling the whatever it is that is physically supporting you, and know that you're safe and you're supported. And so with each breath, you allow yourself to drift inward into that quiet sanctuary in your own being. And in this moment, Spirit is here, God is here, expressing itself through you. So bring awareness to your heart. Feel the rise and fall of your breath, and gently affirm inward. There is one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. And I invite you to feel these words, not as a concept, not as a clever phrase, but as something that vibrates and connects as an inner truth. So right where you are, the infinite mind, infinite love, infinite potential is present. You're not separate from it. You're made of it. And just let that truth sink in. Feel it. And as you begin to accept that truth, I want you to imagine a soft golden light within your chest. It's warm, it's steady, it's radiant. It is that candle in the dark. It's the warmth of the fireplace. But this is the light of your inner magnificence, the individualized expression of the divine. It's always been there. It is untouched. It is unbroken. It is whole. Nothing that you have experienced has damaged that or dimmed it. It might have hidden it, but it still glows. And with every inhale, I want you to see this light become brighter. And with every exhale, I want you to feel the layers of doubt, fear, and limitation gently dissolve and release. As you breathe in, allow this inner radiance to expand. It fills your chest, fills your entire body, and it surrounds you in a field of loving presence. Bask in this inner brilliance. Let it remind you of who you truly are, a unique, unrepeatable expression of the infinite, a vessel of wisdom, of creativity, of compassion, and power. And silently affirm, I am the light of the divine. I am enough. I am whole. Let these words echo through you, settling into your consciousness as truth. Now, within this glowing field, ask yourself gently, what is the divine presence within me wanting me to remember right now? You may sense a word, a feeling, a symbol, or simply a deep peace. Trust whatever comes, and know that divine intelligence speaks in ways that are perfectly tailored for you. And now take a slow breath in and let gratitude rise naturally. Gratitude for this moment of connection, for the truth of your being, for the magnificence that you carry everywhere you go. Begin to bring your awareness back to your body. Feel your hands, feel your feet, feel the chair, feel the support beneath you. Take one final deep breath, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes, carrying the light of your inner magnificence with you wherever you go.
Oh, thank you. That was lovely. That's wonderful. Is that in your book?
No, it's not.
It's great. It's great. Uh, well, is there anything that you would like to share about that practice?
Um, No,
You don't have to. We're right on time.
no, the one thing I will toss out there is um, about the power of intention.
Mm,
And one of the practices that when I do it makes so much difference in my day. Most of us, when we get up in the morning, we know what we've got to do and we've got our list of places to go and things to do. But I would invite you, your audience, anybody, before you get up, to think about, what do I want to be today?
mm,
How do I want to be in the world?
mm.
And let that be my intention. How am I going to be in the world today? How am I going to show up? How am I going to let my love, my kindness, my joy be present and stay connected? And I find when I start the day that way, my days go better.
Yeah,
So I would offer that as a final invitation.
yeah, it's a lovely invitation. Um, and would you like to treat us out?
Sure. So now I invite us to turn inward to that quiet, sacred place where the infinite whispers its truth. In this moment, we remember that the magnificence we seek is not something to earn or to prove. It is the essence of who we already are. It's an expression of the one life shining through each of us uniquely and brilliantly. As we leave this time together, we leave knowing that the same power that created the galaxies lives within us. We carry the light of clarity, the strength of love, the vision of our highest possibility. And we know that every step we take is guided, every word we speak is inspired, every interaction becomes an opportunity to reveal the divine within. So may the recognition of our inner magnificence expand in every breath, blessing our homes, blessing our communities, and our world. And so we go forth, centered, empowered, and awake to the God presence that is our true nature. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, Bary.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, really. And thank you everyone for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this, then please like and subscribe. And in the meantime, I love me, I love you, I love us, and I will see you soon.